How's you back with Formula One Focus? Last week we had a bit of a look at the season coming, and last night, of course, was the major F175 launch event, and I was thinking, oh my word, what's this going to be like? And I tell you what, I was quite impressed. What were your thoughts?
Yeah, exactly. I kind of messaged you before it started and said I've got low expectations for this. I thought it was going to be really awkward, but to be fair, I thought that about a couple of things about Formula One lately, and it's kind of pulled it out of the bag. I wasn't massively enthralled by Jack Whitehall being the host. I know because I messaged you, and he's maybe not as known around the world, but in the UK, he's
No
known
idea who
as
it is, yeah.
he's known of as he was a stand-up comedian for a bit. He's been in films, and he's basically known as this posh kid who gets opportunities because his dad is very high up in broadcasting and things. So, um, wasn't that excited about that. So I was using the mute button a fair bit for the bits in kind of in between. But I think we'll get on to the cars themselves. So I think Sauber really smashed it with the opening, and I think it's going to be quite funny next year because I think a few teams w
Mm.
went very corporate with it and thought it was going to be like a corporate do. And so they kind of just went like thought they thought they could wheel the car out and give a bit of a speech from the team principal, and that would do. Whereas you had people like Sauber going really full on with it. And I thought that was really interesting and really cool. So I think as an event, it works, and I think it will go up a level next year. But like I said, that's a nice surprise because I thought it was going to be really awkward and painful.
Oh, I tell you what, it's so slick at those screens and the graphics, and you can see a lot of work has gone into it, a lot of detail in it. I didn't really see that many hiccups. So there were quite a few, not quite a few, but there were a few. One of them, Gordon Ramsay. I suppose that to me was quite interesting that they allowed him to say something. I thought they're going to be all, hush hush about the swearing thing, and that just sort of, FIA was booed and quite a few things there. I thought they're going to try and, sweep it under the carpet. They didn't. They went for it.
Yeah, well, I think it's embraced a bit of that. Christian Horner was booed as well
Mm.
as he went on, and it being a London crowd, of course, it went mental when Lewis Hamilton came on stage and things. So yeah, I did enjoy it, and I did. I think most importantly for people like us, there's loads of things to talk about from it as well.
So before we go to the liveries, which I was looking forward to, I've been looking forward to for a while. Of the 10 teams, which one do you think had the best presentation? We know they had 7 minutes. I can tell you right now who the worst one was, and that was Alpine by a country mile. Because there was 1 minute of car and 6 minutes of DJ
Yeah,
making adjusting switches or something. I don't know what happened
yeah,
there.
yeah. I'm not a fan of DJs. That's just my personal opinion. I th the one that sticks with me is Sauber, and I know that was the first one, but having the drums with the lighting up drumsticks and the color and the video and things. I did like Ferraris and McLarens. I like that those two teams are leaning into heritage at the moment and looking back on their founders, particularly with Enzo and Bruce McLaren, really kind of drawing that history out for new fans. And I, I like that because that's the perfect way to draw new fans in, but also to not chuck away the old fans, which I think is a really hard thing to do.
Mm.
Is when you get a huge influx of new fans like Formula One has had, it's very easy, and I think rugby gets this wrong quite a lot, is just ignoring the old fans. Whereas the way they've done this really pays homage to that. But obviously Sauber don't have that level of heritage. But when I was watching like the drums and things and the presentation and the smoke and things, I was like, is every presentation going to be like this? Are we in for 10 of these? This is going to be intense. This is like Eurovision. But it wasn't like that. Kind of thankfully, I think maybe you need a couple of boring ones in there to make the good ones stand out.
One that people were raving about is the Aston Martin one. And I thought a bit of watered down
I
007.
wanted them
Yeah.
to do that. It's
Yeah.
funny to me that that particular one that they referenced, the world is not no.
Yeah, it's the
Tomorrow
first
Never
one.
Dies.
The
Tomorrow
fir-
Never Dies is the Pierce
mm,
Brosnan James
mm.
Bond film, which isn't thought of as a particularly iconic James Bond film, but for some reason that boat chase in the Thames over to the O2 Arena has just become an iconic thing. So I was glad. I think if you're Aston Martin, you've got to bring James Bond into it. Like it's a no-brainer.
I thought they tried to emulate where the Queen landed in the Olympic Games 2012.
Yeah,
Sort of tried that kind of a thing, and didn't
you know
really
that
pan out for me.
that blew all our minds at the time. Like I don't know how that was received internationally, but when it turned
No,
out
it did. It's awesome. Huh.
it was actually the real Queen, everyone in Britain completely lost their minds about that.
No, I loved it. So. Right. What I also liked a little bit was the way that V Corp, which they might not clear as their name, how they sort of, made fun of themselves and made fun of their name. And I like that. That was quite funny. Little Yuki, you feel little legs, you have to make double time to get to the frontier. And that's tongue in cheek. I like that kind of. I like humor.
Yeah, definitely. I like the ones that have a bit of self-awareness. I think there are ones that, like I said, are quite corporate and don't really have that level of wherewithal about them. But I think that kind of some of the lower down teams especially have that kind of the willing
Mm.
that if they're not here to win races, they need to think about what else they're here to be about. So I like that.
Right. So now we're going to drive into the livery. You and I both voted for our favorites and from 1 to 10, and we sort of got to an average. And lo and behold, last place. A team that I actually had high expectations for is that's Williams. I don't know. I wasn't blown away. I like the way James Vowles walked into the stage, Vowles, but the car itself, yes, it is disappointing. I mean, there's nothing there. There's so much heritage. I think about the yellow, on the cannon there's so much they could do with this car, and it's so boring. It's so dull. What's your thoughts?
Yeah, I agree. You know, Williams like they've somehow got trapped in this dark blue thing. And
Hmm.
they were dark blue when they were sponsored by Royal Bank of Scotland, which made sense because that was Royal Bank of Scotland's colours. And then they had the Martini cars, which looked amazing. If you could actually go back to the beginning of Williams, it's sort of what's his name, Jones era. Um, they were green. First Williams were white and green. So how they've got trapped in this kind of dark blue thing, I'm not sure. And they say that someone once told me that kind of navy blue and white is what they tell corporations like banks and investment funds and insurance companies to do their colors as because they're the most safe. Like if you look at the English Premiership or the Champions Cup or
Hmm.
something, their branding is all blue and white because it's just seen as the safest stuff, and that's kind of what I feel like it's all about. Like I do like the Duracell battery
Yeah, oh, that's iconic.
airbox,
Hmm.
but I feel like you could do more with it. And like it looks like it was designed by someone who's not really bothered. Like you said, there's more they could do with Williams in terms of referencing old stuff. Like they tried to do a yellow and blue one a couple of years ago, and it looked rubbish. Um, but yeah, just overly safe. Doesn't strike me as being done by someone who really cared. Like they've got golf sponsorship, they could lean into that. Like,
Hmm. Also iconic. Golf is a long time sponsor. I mean, it's been
yeah.
around for ages. The blue on the side is not too bad, but I mean that nose. If you go back to the nose, it's almost black. Can you imagine seeing that car coming towards you on the track? It's going to be nothing. Like you see a dark car in the rain, you don't notice it because it sort of melts into the tarmac for almost. It's too dark. There's nothing standing out. There should have been more of a contrast there. Anyway, I'm disappointed. Color me disappointed.
I don't know if I'm disappointed because I expected it to be like that and it was.
No, I expected
But
more. That's why I'm
it's
disappointed. I thought new age, new everything. They first team to have their car ready. I mean, they off the spreadsheets now. They're onto actual proper machinery and some proper software, and they go right back to the same old thing. Yeah, didn't like that. No, at least they've got a good sponsor now, a proper sponsor. That's good news.
at least there's that. Yeah.
I don't even know who those people are. But anyway, good for
No, me
them.
neither.
All right, now here's one. It's going to be a bit controversial because it's very successful livery, but it's a very boring livery. How many years in a row have Red Bull now had the same livery? Because Red Bull's
Well, how
number
long have they
nine.
been in the sport? About that long.
Yeah, not quite. It's about 10
20
years or so.
years.
Yeah, but not the same like this. About 10 years like this, if I'm not mistaken. Because they started off with more of a turquoise color. Remember, they were part of Sauber. They sponsored Sauber in the beginning as well. And then when they took over Jaguar, it was a lighter blue. But this, I don't know, this doesn't work for me. And I suppose it's about brand recognition and everything. Once again, not blown away.
Yeah, I mean, they kind of stank out the event, didn't they, with Christian Horner getting booed and
Mm.
like
What's that about?
everyone,
Why was that?
because he's incredibly unpopular.
And why is
Like
that?
he's very unpopular in Britain because Red Bull are the bad guys, basically. And
Mm.
Christian Horner's not covered himself in glory at every point of his life, let's be honest. But
Mm.
um, he, yeah, it's like they during 2021, during the heat of the Lewis
Mm.
versus Max stuff, obviously Christian Horner went to extreme lengths to back his driver, and that's something that Christian Horner's done a lot in his kind of
Mm.
time. Is he'll back the team and the narrative and things. So things like the cost cap breach and stuff. He'll just insist that everything's fine, and he's got no problem lying to the press in order to protect his team and things. Which I suppose you could say, if you're on his team, that's good. But if you're the opposition, you hate it. And yeah, there's the deep rooted dislike between Lewis Hamilton's fan base and
Mm.
Red Bull slash Max's fan base just means that Christian Horner in Britain is always going to get booed.
Yeah, and I suppose the opposite applies. The next time they hold the ceremony in the Netherlands, it's going to be the other way around.
Well, maybe we'll see. We'll see. I can't see them ever holding it in the Netherlands, to be honest. But
No,
in
sure.
terms of this car, I think generally it's not that bad. It's not offensive. I don't think it looks necessarily bad. It's just you you knew what it was going to be before it was
Mm.
revealed. So it's just a bit of a waste of time as a livery
Yeah,
reveal.
it's not bad. I mean, that's sort of a theme for all these manufacturers. Very much the same old, same old. So some people said, was it new cars with new liveries, or old cars with new liveries, or old
Yeah,
cars with old liveries? You know, you wouldn't if you at a glance, you would not know the difference between this Red Bull and last year's Red Bull. There's not nothing that
absolutely.
stands out and differentiates. I don't know if that's even a requirement, but to me, I like, seeing a bit of change, a bit of a freshening up. I was a bit disappointed there. Then Haas. Haas is number 8 for us. You and I were sort of in agreement. I put Haas slightly higher than you did. And I like the fact that they've made the sideboards white now. That's a new look for me, and I like that. It sits out of it. A little bit worried that they're going to be confused with the V carbs again. Remember when the V carb and the AlphaTauri still then, and the Haas looked so much the same. You couldn't see who it was until they came past you because they looked
Hmm.
exactly the same from the front.
Yeah. No, I don't like this one at all. Black and white. Wow, what a bold color choice. I mean, I know they've got the red in there for the MoneyGram and things, but I just from some angles, I think from bang side on, it's just the most boring color scheme ever. Just straight black and white, complete absence of color, and it's just going to be so forgettable for me.
Mm, mm.
That's what it is. I mean, it doesn't look too bad from front on, but it's just like I said, forgettable. I don't really see what they're referencing. I mean, I don't know NASCAR. Is Haas known for these colors previously?
No, though they've used these colors for the past 10 years, variations of it. Sometimes a bit more gray rather than black. Last year they were all black almost, even worse than this. Less colorful than this one. So I think it's a lot to do with Toyota's color schemes. Toyota's Gazoo's now getting involved. You remember on the back wing, their technical
Yeah,
partner. So people are seeing it as sort of Toyota getting their foot in the door again in Formula One. It's very much Toyota Gazoo racing colors, these, I think.
I suppose it's better than the Russian flag that they had a couple of years ago.
Yeah, that was horrible. That wasn't a good one. All right, so fine. Yeah, Alpine's next up.
So
If you
we
have
disagreed on this, didn't we?
an Alpine, yeah, you liked Alpine. You had them third, I had them ninth. And
I like I like them because they would have actually kind of like had a meeting about it. You know what I mean? Like
mm,
they this doesn't just look like an afterthought. It looks like they've really tried to do something. So I don't mind the pink because at least it stands out. At least you
mm,
know which car it is.
mm.
And like I said, it's I think it's maybe the most different from last year of all the cars. And yeah,
Yeah.
like it gains points for originality and uniqueness for me. Maybe it's not that uh great to look at. Maybe you wouldn't paint your house these colors, but you know, if this camera suddenly cuts to it, you're going to know which team it is.
True. We're going to get to another team just now that the sponsor seemed to have uh, an outsized influence on what the car must look like. And I think this pink, I don't mind the pink, but I think the pink doesn't work with that specific shade of blue to me. I like the way that they made the pink on the side parts rather than the white,
Hmm.
but yes, it doesn't work for me. And also the Alpine logo on the back there on the engine cover, it's a white Alpine logo on a pink background. It doesn't work. I mean, think back to the first Alpine livery, how cool that looked now. That was a beautiful livery. And now it's sort of this hybrid corporate, I don't know. I don't like it.
Yeah,
See the logo there.
it is a bit designed by committee, isn't it? You got the
Mm,
Alpine guys saying no, we need to have the blue, and then the BWT guys saying no, we need to have the pink,
yeah.
and no one wanted to compromise.
Oh, that's the thing. When you mentioned they had a meeting about it, I say, of course, they had a meeting about it. They're a corporate entity, and it's Renault. They're famous for their corporatism, if you want to call it that. So you can see that car is a car for me, designed by committee. Exactly right. So a bit of this, and I'll compromise you on this, and if you give me this, I'll give you this, and that's the end result. Sort of a, I don't know. No. Anyway, let's move on. The most controversial one. I want to hear your opinion on this one. That's the one where we said the sponsors have an outsized influence on what the team looks like. Ferrari, number 6, yeah. And that's pretty low down. Your thoughts?
Yeah. How much money are HP paying Ferrari? It must be the biggest amount of money ever paid to anybody because
Yeah.
they obviously the title sponsors, it's now Scuderia Ferrari HP. It's all over the overalls, and now there's a massive white stripe down the middle and on the white ring. Now, there are old Ferraris that have white on them. I think one of Schumacher's winning cars had a white
Mm.
airbox. So it's not like sacrilege, but like couldn't it at least be a nicer laptop?
Mm.
Because I don't like HP products, but there it is. I guess they paid the money. Do you know what it is to me, Emve?
Mm.
Is that I think we judge it. Are we judging it as a Ferrari livery, or are we just judging it as a general livery? Because I feel like if like Haas had a car that looked exactly like this, but it just had a Haas logo instead of a Ferrari logo, we'd say it was fine. But I think because it's a Ferrari logo, a
Mm.
Ferrari livery, um, we're being harsher on it. What do you think?
No, no, no. It's a livery. It's a bad livery. I mean, the sponsors on the side and everything is it's not too bad. Those two sponsors in the middle there between Ray-Ban and Shell on top of each other, that doesn't work for me. But that white thing in the middle of nowhere is totally incongruous, doesn't work. It's just sort of slapped in there. There's no thought behind it. It would look bad in any car. It looks especially bad in a Ferrari. So for me, it's firstly a bad livery, and secondly, it's a horrible Ferrari livery. I like the color, the red. It's a nice color. It's deeper red. But
Mm.
that white just spoils it completely. And that blue IBM logo on the back wing, man, that's even worse. No, no, I'm not a fan. Not a fan. See there.
Oh, I hadn't seen that yet. That does
Mhm.
look terrible. I don't like the white on the front of the wing either. I don't like the white HP logo.
There's someone
Not
who said
interested in
today
that.
that HP's marketing logo is actually black and white, not blue and white. And that would have worked so much better. And also, you've got the new HP logo, which is sort of lines, almost look like a barcode that they could have used, a newer design. It would have looked so much better. But it just clearly looks to me like Ferrari was strong-armed into putting it and making it look like this. This is the impression I get.
Yeah, I can see that. I can see that. I do like the color. I don't mind Ferraris that are a bit lighter because when you think Ferrari red, this maybe isn't that red.
Mm,
But I don't know. Maybe I'm just being a bit kinder on it. I don't think it's the white the rear wing ruins it for me. I also don't like the stripe.
mm,
The with the HP, it's got the kind of block white and then it's got a gap and another little stripe. I don't know what they're trying to do there. That doesn't work for me.
doesn't make sense. No, the best looking Ferrari for me was the 2022 one, where they had all that black, the black wings and the red. No
Yeah,
white.
well, you can't go wrong with red and black.
That's so good. White and red on the Ferrari goes back a long way. Jody Scheckter won his championship in 1979 South African in a red and white Ferrari. So it's been around for a long time. 1993 was a Ferrari with a white stripe across the engine cover, also sort of a slapdash thing. But still, it's not unusual to see white. But the application, yeah, it's just sort of horrible. Anyway, so yeah, let us know what you think about that. And then the next one for me, also, they had James Bond and 007 themes and everything. But once again, it looks the same. Aston Martin, nothing new. Only difference I could see is the Aramco on the sideboard is now on a black background, and that's
Yeah, I
all I
don't
can
like
see.
that.
Mm-mm.
I don't know
Not
what
good.
that's about. I would prefer if it was green. Again, I think this is another one where I mean I'm not big on this silver Madden at the top,
Mm.
but I think if it was fully green and things, I think you'd say yeah, fine. Inoffensive, I would say inoffensive, and I don't mind the kind of light green stripes because obviously that's got Aston Martin heritage
Mm.
links to it. So I'm okay with that. But yeah, like you said, just a bit boring, not changed enough. I don't like the Aramco on the rear wing again. Kind of looks completely out of place compared to the rest of the car, in my opinion. And yeah, forgettable. Another forgettable one.
And that color doesn't pop on TV either.
No, it doesn't.
No, it just looks so dull. I mean, it's a marketing exercise. That's why you're doing this. And the car's sort of ho hum, can't even recognize it. You have to wait once again for it to come past you to see what it is.
Hmm.
So often, if the sun shines in a certain way, you can't see the Mercedes or the Aston Martin, for example. They look pretty much the same. It's a very
Yeah, when we come to
confusing.
the Mercedes
Mm.
images, it doesn't photograph very well. It's a very aggressive undercut on the side pod.
Which is different.
I've
It's
only just
weird now because
noticed.
nowadays
Yeah.
it's the other way around. It's got an over lip almost, overbite. But now that they've got it the other way around. Mm.
Yeah. I think it's very
Okay.
difficult to tell from these pictures. It'd be interesting to see when it's on track.
Mm. Can't wait for next week, but right. So you talked about Mercedes. I couldn't find any better pictures of this. I mean, it's only those pictures on stage, and it's all fuzzy. And
Yeah.
I liked it from my first glance. I mean, there's no color on it this time. I mean, last couple of years they had the Ineos in red on the engine cover on the air intake. This year is just silver and black and a little bit of a small turquoise Petronas line down the side of it. It looks very clean to me. I like that. That appeals to me. But I suppose it is a bit dull. I wonder what happened to Ineos. We know Ineos is in trouble because they just dumped the All Blacks on the rugby
Yeah, they're
side.
in trouble, aren't
I
they?
wonder what's happening. Why
Oh,
they're
there's
not on the
Ineos there,
car.
see, on the inside of the wing.
Yeah, but they were on the engine cover. They were prominent. The whole airbox there was red with Ineos written on it.
Oh
Remember?
yeah. Yeah, I do remember. Yeah, they are
Mm.
in trouble though, aren't they? It looks a bit like one of those West McLarens from the late 90s.
Yeah, which is a good thing. Those are beautiful
Yeah,
cars.
but like you say, like Mercedes are the only ones not to have put up proper photos. All the other teams have put up proper like studio shot
Mm.
or at
Mm.
least rendered photos of the car. Mercedes haven't done that. As a Lewis Hamilton fan going from Mercedes to Ferrari, you realize just how much Mercedes were kind of phoning it in when it comes to social media and things. Again, this Mercedes again, a very overcut side pod. So everyone's copying that Red Bull.
Mm.
Ironically, with how Mercedes tried to do the zero pod thing, went back on it, and now they've ended up being followers. But I don't mind the Mercedes stars on the back. That kind of came in at the beginning of this decade. I kind of am okay with that. The Petronas blue keeps it interesting. It's just with the silver to the black, it's like pick one for me because they
Mm.
don't stand out against each other as colors.
Yeah, but they're traditional. I mean, they're silver arrows, and it's also the black has sort of become the second Mercedes color lately. So I suppose
Yeah, but
but I mean, there should have been a bit of color between the two just to break it up and but to give a bit more contrast there.
yeah, I agree.
Splash of red or so. One of the red stars still there, the one for Niki Lauda.
I don't know. I can't tell you because I haven't
Mm.
got
A proper photo.
any more proper photos.
Yeah. Anyway. And interesting also the numbers are not in neon colors this year. You see, last year it was blue for George and
Oh yeah,
turquoise, not that flashy yet neon yellow, remember, for Lewis.
yeah,
Now that's also gone. So there's no color on this car, basically, apart from that blue stripe. Hmm. Actually, a bit dull.
yeah.
I placed this first number one, and you asked me, did I smoke something? So I took a look, changed my mind. Didn't
I
say
don't think
anymore.
it's the best Mercedes livery that I've seen. I think the ones towards sort of 2017 to 2020 was peak Mercedes for me.
Hmm. And Lewis played a big part in that, no? The black
Yeah.
and yeah, they're gonna miss him, like you said. You can already see the fact that they didn't publish the photos. I mean, let's be honest, some of these studio photos are worse than the ones they took on the stage, like the McLaren. It's on a orange car on an orange background. You can't see the car. So that's
Yeah, I've
quite
managed to find
stupid.
different ones, fortunately, for
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, no, no. Talking of McLaren, that's our third placed livery. So we had some clearly we've got some rank outsiders in our first two places. But yeah, the McLaren, you said to me last night, it looks exactly the same, and I vehemently disagreed. It's got blue mirrors. Can't you see? But otherwise, it looks exactly the same. If it ain't
Exactly,
broke,
it's
don't
got
fix
blue
it,
mirrors.
no?
Still very like limited. No, maybe not so much. Compared to some of the other cars, there's not as many sponsors on it. I think maybe compared to 10 years or so, this would be counted as a lot of sponsors, but compared to some of the other cars, it's relatively clean. Plenty of black on it. What do you think about just orange McLarens generally, or papaya McLarens, before anybody gets upset with me? Because I started watching Formula One where they had the chrome McLarens, and I kind of missed those, to be
Mm.
honest. I enjoyed that era with the Vodafone sponsorship. Then you've got the West. I know that papaya is a heritage color for them, but I don't know. It still doesn't. It still doesn't feel McLaren-y to me. The orange. What do you think?
For me, a McLaren is red and white. I grew up with McLaren red and white Marlboro colors and the Marlboro color scheme. They can't do that. Clearly, they can't. And that's also the lines on the side of the car. If you have another side-on picture, maybe you can see the angles. It's a homage to the red and white. So for me, a McLaren should be red and white. But I like the orange. I like the heritage. You said earlier that Ferrari and McLaren are leaning into the heritage, and this is part of it. The first McLarens were orange. Some of them were a little bit blue. I think the Can-Ams were blue. That's why the blue was on the livery for a while, which was terrible. It was a terrible color. So yeah, no, I like the orange. I would have gone more orange. If a couple of years ago, I think that same era, the 98, somewhere around there, the testing McLarens were all orange, completely orange, but they were
I
orange
think I've seen those
orange.
photos. Yeah.
Yeah, not papaya. They were proper orange. And I quite like that. It's like a red Ferrari or an orange McLaren. I mean, you're either fully committed to it. This is sort of I don't know, maybe a compromise to break the orange a little bit. It's not completely committed to it. But the one thing you say about the sponsors, McLaren's got the most sponsors of all the teams. But
Oh, right. Okay. I was
they're
wrong
not
then.
they're not the only team. They're the only team without a title sponsor. But that's by choice, not by
Right.
they don't need the money. So HP can prescribe because Ferrari needs money. Aramco can subscribe or prescribe because Aston Martin needs money. McLaren's got enough money. It's all major sponsors, but none of them are a title sponsor. And it's simply because they have the most sponsors because they've got the best marketer heading up the team, Zach Brown. I told you the other day,
Mm.
Zach Brown brought Martini to Williams. I remember we talked about Martini earlier on in this video. That's what his job was, securing sponsors for Formula One teams. And yeah, now he's with McLaren every day. I saw an article the other day who left McLaren. Coca-Cola left McLaren. Dark Trace, they used to be on the back wing there. They left McLaren now, but they got new sponsors added to it. Chrome's re-upped again. So now McLaren is well set, and it made me feel very proud to see them there and they announced them also the champions, the manufacturers champions, and had the
Yeah.
trophy there. I like that. I mean, if you take it where that team was a couple of years ago to where they are now, major difference. Love it. Right. Now, first and second, um, like you said, it's two complete surprises. So you tell us, number two, who's our number two?
Number two is Steak slash Kick Sauber, whatever the full name is. I think it's
Yeah.
written on the side of the car, but Sauber to me and you, soon to be Audi,
Mm,
with the neon green. So we kind of spoke about this, didn't we? About how the green they didn't make it work last year. And then what they've done this year is they've gone heavy green at the front, and then it goes straight to. This is quite a good photo actually, shows it
mm,
quite well.
very
It
nice.
it goes to fades to black at the end. I don't. One thing that I don't like is the stake branding. I think that's awful. But in terms of the green nose, again, points for changing compared to last season,
Mm,
and points for like you're not going to confuse this for a different car. You're going to know which one it is.
mm.
So it's strong, and I do think it's nicely designed. Like I said, I don't like the stake branding, but apart from that, it it works for me. There's few things to pick a hole. It's once if you can get over the fact it's neon green and that doesn't offend you, you can appreciate that it's a well executed design.
Well, it looks, I mean, chalk and cheese compared to last year's car. And I mean, last year's car, that little terrible zigzag there, and the engine cover there. It was neither here nor there. They sort of, overcommitted on the one side and undercommitted on the other. Too much green here and too little green there. This is a perfect compromise. That fade into the black, it works perfectly well. Like you said, this car cannot be mistaken for any other car. I love it. I loved it when I saw it the first time as well. Very nice. I like it. I also like the fact that the shoes are the same colors as well. They're going all the way with the
Yeah,
branding.
yeah. That's the other thing about it. It's very brandable,
Mm.
and which helps. So if you see a Sauber fan, if there are any, if you see one, you'll be able to tell straight away by looking at what color their hat is.
All three of them. Well, the one I liked, I think we were unanimous on this. The V Corp, the Racing Bulls, whatever they called this year. The white is a perfect color scheme. It harks back to that Red Bull special livery, the white one they had a couple of years ago.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
love this. I love this livery. I would never thought I'd say this, but this is the best one by a country mile.
yeah. It stood out to me. There's if F1 posted a kind of shot of all the cars together, and this one stands out the most. Obviously, you wouldn't think that being white, and it leans into the Red Bull stuff quite hard. I still think, it's maybe a conversation for another day, but I don't think you should be allowed to own two teams on the grid. But the like exactly as you said, when I saw it, I thought, oh, that's like some of those alternative Red Bull liveries that we've seen. Like this is what is a great shot. This is shows it
Mm,
really well. Against the blue background, really makes it pop. You can see
mm,
under the side pod, it's got some blue detailing as well, making it stand out. Decent integration of the sponsors. Going through all these pictures now, I'm realizing just how much the Red Bull overcuts side pods are really caught on this year. But I can't really think of anything to criticize about this. I think people will be saying, why didn't Red Bull do this themselves? Because I think a lot of people would be very happy if the Red Bull main team went this color.
yeah, I agree. I mean, they've done it before in a special livery. No, I agree. The only thing that's awkward about this team is their name. The rest of it's,
Yeah,
yeah, I'm quite excited about them. I mean, Lauren Mekies came over from Ferrari, the team manager or team principal. They've got proper funding. I think they're going to be one of those dark horses, to keep an eye on. I'm excited about them. Not sure about the driver lineup though. I'm not a big fan of Yuki Tsunoda, but no, we'll see. This is good. I like the fact that Honda is so prominent as well. And Red Bull, the Honda's far more towards the back and smaller almost, I think. But Honda is quite
mm,
prominent on this one. As last year that Honda's going to be supplying engines to either, under Red Bull Powertrain's banner, but to both Red Bull and V Corp. So end of an era. No, I like this one. Very good. Better than that little sort of large chrome color scheme from last year. And the band across the nose, that never worked for me.
yeah, yeah. I agree. I think this is like you said, unanimous. We both picked this one as the best one.
Thanks
Okay,
for
mate.
that. I appreciate it. It was exciting. Next week is going to be the start of testing, and we're going to have a chat about that as well. I'm interested to see if McLaren can keep up the pace. Stay at the front of the pack. I've got a feeling this is probably going to be the one of the most exciting seasons ever. The cars are going to be so close. You just mentioned how many similarities there are in terms of the design. I'm looking forward to the season.